Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host, Joel Elconin, along with Brianna Valesky, and we have Kenny Glick on the line. He is the owner and creator of HitTheBid.com. He is also a professional stand-up comic. Kenny, how you doing this morning?
Awesome. Thank you very much. Professional implies to actually get paid for that. I haven't been paid in a while, but I still go up on stage. Thanks.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's just you chimed in. You talking about the market here. A couple days ago we were looking in the abyss of a big correction. Things change. How quickly the complexion of the market changes in just a couple days here. Dennis was just kind of like, I'm not chasing stocks, and I necessarily don't have to go out and short stocks at these levels. Wait, for some setups at resistance. How are you playing the market today and over the next couple days?
Well, lately, what I've been doing, I think last time we spoke, I said I wasn't going to be bullish until we broke some certain levels, and we broke them, but we really didn't go anywhere. Back in the day, when this market was, just sitting around doing nothing, I learned about selling premium on options to take advantage of the sideways market. The thing is, with the market not able to pick a direction, you don't want to be trapped in any position. So I've been just selling out of the money calls and out of the money puts on the QQQ and just taking in premium every few weeks as we're just going sideways. But lately, I've been just finding 3 or 4 stocks that wake up, and you just stick with those for 2 or 3 days until they peter out, and then you go find something else to do.
Yeah, Nick Shaheen talks about that too, and I think I still have to learn that. Instead of trying to figure out where stocks are going, maybe figure out where they're not going, and
Right.
and sell the premium and let other people make the bet on the speculation and where they're going. So you mentioned there's a few stocks that you've been picking on, that you've been looking at. Are they in the financial sector? Just give you a couple of those stocks that have been on your radar over the last couple of days.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of stocks, like your last guest was saying, you don't want to be chasing anything. So a lot of these stocks, obviously, your big guys, let's throw Netflix out there. I don't know why anybody would be buying this stock right now, but it probably is going to go to 1,000 at this point with the momentum. I'm not commenting about Netflix. I don't own it, and I'm not going to short it. I don't trade it. But I found a couple of stocks that woke up, that came back from the dead. Take a look at Sina, one of the darlings of China at one point that had fallen on hard times. And people completely forgot about that, along with its, redheaded stepchild, Yoku. These 2 stocks just suddenly woke up and have had 2 monster runs. And even though we felt like we were chasing, it didn't matter. These things had such momentum that we were just continuously trading them for the last, 2 or 3 weeks. In your cybersecurity stocks, they woke up and broke out, FEYE. And even some of the financials, you got AIG and Bank of America finally joining the party. But, like I said, if you told me 3 months ago that I'd be trading Cena religiously this year, I would have said you're crazy. And a stock like NQ, I just threw out a couple of, a bunch of symbols there for you, but they're all kind of the same type of move where they were left for dead and then suddenly they've come back to life. And, in this market where it's going sideways, that's what people are doing. They're just flocking to whatever's hot. So you're getting even a bigger move and, more volume and more excitement. And then, they move on from that stuff.
That's
while the getting's good, Jen.
I was just going to say, that's the mark of, someone that's been in the business for a while. And, if something's not working, if something's not trading right or meeting your setups, then sometimes you just have to put it aside for a while and look for something else. And here, you have found what's hot, lately, and it's been, these Chinese stocks. NQ Mobile has just been incredible. So you go to that. And then when will you know it's not working? When your P&L's red in it. Then, for a couple days, you'll say, okay, it's not working anymore. Maybe I need to lay off or switch, stances on it and move on to something else. So always a great strategy. I don't know. I know you're following the Cena technically here, and that's just been, just all out buy. To me, the news that got it started was that the CEO was plowing a lot of money into the company. I mean, have you seen any other catalyst besides that and just, the Chinese market?
No, on Cena, that was precisely it. We saw it sniffing around. I use VWAP a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and Cena just happened to break what was basically a 2.5 year VWAP come out of consolidation, and then 3 or 4 days later, that's when that news hit. So we were kind of more lucky than good to still have a position in Cena when that happened. And the last 3 or 4 days, I'll be honest, I've been just waiting for this thing to roll over to give back some, and it just doesn't want to go down. I am looking at it today because yesterday hit, our target for the year already. I threw a target of 58.75 on this thing and never thought it was going to get there, in another week and a half. So yesterday we got out of the position, and today we're looking for it to possibly roll over a little bit. Again, I will not short anything in this market unless it completely reverses and it's breaking. I look at 1 minute VWAPs, I look at a 5 day, and then I look at a 200-day VWAP. So a lot of things have to line up for me to be, looking to go short. Take that NQ for an example. I think it was 2 days ago, fit every criteria to be out of the stock and be short, yet this thing came all the way back, closed near the highs, and then gapped up the next day. So it's a difficult market to stay short, that's for sure. If I'm going to be trapped anyway, I'd rather be trapped long in something at this point.
What do you base your targets on?
Well, I use deviation bands and volume weighted average price, and it really has, cut through the clutter of what, trading is all about. I used to just use candlestick patterns, with high lows, and I would set up my price targets that way. And then about 3 years ago, a hedge fund friend of mine said, I watched the way you trade, and you're trading along with the VWAP. Did you know that? And I didn't even know what that was. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I've just been letting, the VWAP show me the way. It gives me a decent idea of where I think a stock could go. Like GoPro, for instance, was breaking out of a lifetime VWAP, meaning that since the IPO, 57.85, the stock obviously went from 30 to 90 and change and then crashed back down to 30 and change. 57.85 was a lifetime VWAP, something you don't see too often. So you had to assume it was going to make a go at that. And if it broke, it'd probably be a great idea to be getting long. And you saw what it did when it broke that 57.85 area. You got right up to around 61 and change. And that was a great trade that we had on for a while. But now I've been lightening up. A lot of these stocks have these monster runs, like your Cena, like your NQ, like your FBYE, even Alibaba and GoPro. So I'm kind of, taking a step back and just waiting to see what happens. And I watch the UVXY to guide me into what I trade. I don't know
Before
if you
we
mentioned the
before we go into
UVXY yet.
that before we go into that
Yeah.
ETF, Rob Hood is reading my mind again here, and he puts VWAP, and he's had a question mark here, and I've heard it, and frankly, I mean, I've heard of it, I've looked at it, I've never looked on it longer though on a daily basis. Can you just go a little bit more in depth to the VWAP? You already, how you came across it, but like how you use it, and I mean, I've seen it on different platforms, TradeStation and whatnot. What platform do you use it on?
I use Thinkorswim. I have a buddy that programs for them, so he's done his own little special sauce to the charting, and he programs it for me and some of my friends. But generally, you can get a 1 minute VWAP on a lot of different platforms. 1 minute VWAP is the more significant for the day trader. But then if you want to start looking at swing trades, you can start looking at a larger time frame. Just, in brief, the reason I believe VWAP works the best is the name itself, volume weighted average price. It's a lot more significant when you know a stock had a tremendous amount of volume at a certain price than it was just there for a temporary time period. You understand what I'm saying? It's really
Exactly.
just a lot more.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot more significant if there's, if the stock's trading 500,000 shares in a day and half that volume went in, at one certain price. That's going to play out a little bit more significant. And as far as I'm concerned, the more I've watched this, you see these absurd moves from time to time, and you think, wow, what just happened here? And you look on the chart, and it just happened to be a multi-day VWAP break or, a 1 minute VWAP break. And the algos seem to react to these prices. So it's a great place to set stops. It's a great place to look for a stock to get to. And there's 4 or 5 different ways to play it. It's not like, hey, it's breaking the VWAP, let me buy it. It's more of it's a guide to, let's say, if you want to buy stock and you feel like you're chasing, why not just wait to see if it pulls back to the VWAP? And if it holds, generally that's a great place to enter now with a lot less risk. And that's really what it comes down to. And then, of course, there's the standard, hey, GoPro's breaking a multi-day VWAP, let's buy it. So there's 4 or 5 different ways that we watch it. And, according to, certain deviation bands, you get to see these stocks. They generally trade in this range. And when they go parabolic or they're crashing, they're breaking out of these deviation bands. And as crazy as it seems on a chart every once in a while, even though the stock has gone fully extended or just completely collapsed, somehow the VWAP comes back into play and they gravitate back to it. So
There,
it's
yeah.
a really interesting way. And if anybody wants to, find out more about how we look at the VWAP, just give me a call or just send me an email. I'll show you a couple setups on Thinkorswim.
And you think that the longer you go out too, the more. I mean, like the 1 minute VWAP, if you want to pull your hair out trying to scalp it, be a day trader, uh, you could do it that way. I also know that institutions use that as a benchmark. Like, let's say you're on the desk of a big institution, and they say, hey, we need to buy 250,000 Twitter today, and they say, just get me the VWAP. And then that is what
Exactly.
the trader. So you see that. Also, you do have to put some significance on volume because institutions will trade at a particular level, nearly the half numbers and whole numbers. They'll put that size out there. They don't care how long it takes to get to fill. They'll be there with the size. If stock drops another 50 cents, they'll buy another 100,000. So it helps you identify the institutional players as well. I'll have to take a look at that as well. You were talking about a favorite instrument that you have there out to trade, and I don't know if Dennis is going to listen, but listening in right now is getting ready for the open. But I know he's going to love this next segment coming up here. And you've been trading the UVXY. You've had a little my chart's not doing it justice here, probably because it just did another reverse split here. But tell us
Right.
what you're looking at here, why you're trading it, and perhaps if you can continue to trade it.
Yeah, the UVXY. I don't know. I guess I could call it one of my favorites. It to me is the worst product ever created in the history of the stock market. There was another one, the SRS index, but we won't get into it. The UVXY, what it tries to do is tries to track the VIX, the fear index, on the long side. And obviously, we're in a bull market, so you can imagine this thing's been going down. But what this thing is doing is it trades, just to be, concise, it trades futures contracts. So there's erosion on the stock. It almost trades basically like an option. So if the VIX stays even flat, this thing will still go down. So with every spike up, it basically corrects. So if you look at a chart, think if you look at a 20-year chart on this thing and you say, wait a minute, how could the high of the stock be 98,000 and the thing's down at 37 bucks? It's because they artificially bring it up with the reverse split, and then it just trickles down, and then they do it again, and then it just trickles down. So basically, if you stay short over a time period without there being, a full-blown crash or nuclear disaster, and I guess at that point you don't care if you're short or long the market, this thing's going down. So every time this thing spikes up, and there are not a lot of platforms that allow you to short it, but the options are so volatile and so pricey that you just go out there and you sell a couple of calls naked. I know it's a risky proposition, but it's mostly for a 1 day or a 2 day hold. And you're getting these monster premiums, and this stock never goes up. And at this point, I hate to use the N word, but it never goes up. It never goes up. And I've been doing this now for 8 months. I started selling leaps on this thing, and I couldn't believe the premium on the options. There was $200 calls, for an example, on the January 2016 leaps. When this thing was split adjusted, it was still around 30 bucks. So we're going back, 6 months or so. And the $200 calls were trading at $9. And I was like, wait a second, how could this thing not going to go back to 200 by the end of the year? If anything, it's going to be at zero the way this thing looks. And I was afraid to sell these options. I was like, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe these don't represent just 100 shares. And I had to call down, I called the option desk to make sure I was doing the right thing. And yes, sir, it's 100 shares of UVXY for every contract. And I was like, fantastic. So I started selling them at 9, and now they're a nickel. And
Yeah.
it's a I don't understand how they get away with this, but hey, I'm glad it exists for
You
now.
know what? I just want to emphasize, to our traders out there, new traders, your veteran traders, this is something that Kenny's been doing for a long time. If he is short the calls or something like that and a situation comes up, he can buy the UVXY. He has an out on this. It's just not this is the way that he plays it, but, it's not for everybody. And, it's just a strategy that works for Kenny and it's not necessarily for everybody. Just
Precisely.
yeah, I just want to emphasize that. I mean, because it makes sense, and and for you, and you know how to manage it. And if you get smoked, if something does happen in the market, you're gonna say, hey, I learned my lesson, or I'll buy the actual index. There's a lot of ways to trade it, but even when you notice when those 200 calls were at $9, you were still like scratching your head in the back of your head. You're thinking, what if we have a flash crash, or what if we have an incident like we did in the financial crisis or in 2000, and that there's the risk in it. Before we let you go, we just have a minute or two left here. And you mentioned the stocks you're trading. Anything else on your radar for today?
I'm watching my favorite stock. I mentioned it the last couple of times. It's a security company out of Israel, Supercom, SPCB. Not too many people like trading it. It's very low volume and there's no options on it. But they're chugging along, and it just touched the 52-week high. I think might have been an all-time high yesterday. So I'm waiting to see if there's any follow-through on the SPCB. This is not a day trade. This is not a
Okay.
swing trade. This is an investment. I've been buying this thing on pullbacks for basically a year, and loving it still.
What's the
And I'm
symbol
still waiting
again?
for the.
I'm sorry. What's the
This
symbol?
would be Sam Peter Charlie Boy. Yeah, I can't even speak English. CSPCB. Sam Paul
I got it. I
Charlie
got it.
Boy.
How and I
Yeah.
mean it's interesting that top security air force in the world. It's that do they do technology for the Israeli Air Forces and other
They do government IDs. It's an interesting little company. I hate getting into fundamentals because
okay.
as a trader, it always comes out that it doesn't matter. And this stock it'll go down 10% on no news whatsoever. And that's the kind of stock it is. But yeah, do some research on it, guys. It looks like a real interesting company to own. And the last two companies coming out of Israel, it did really well. I think CyberArk is also a Chinese company. We had some fun with Mobileye. I think Mobileye was sorry, not Chinese, an Israeli company.
Okay.
So we've had some luck with the Israeli stocks.
Kenny Glick, owner and creator of HitTheBid.com, coming in talking a little fundamental, a lot of technical, day trading, VWAP. Kenny, what a pleasure it is having you on, and it's been a while. Hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, always great talking to you guys. Thanks for having me on.